Hey, I'm wondering over the last 6 months, how many of these shows we've led with a COVID story. But let's lead, Tariq, with a COVID story. We had the NFL, like, it seems to me, issue like a double standard between 3 times postponing the Steelers Ravens game,
Yeah.
which at last look is still on for Wednesday, and what they did to the Denver Broncos. How do you filter all this stuff?
I filter it with an excuse of the fact that the NFL is basically saying we don't care anymore. I mean, we have to play these games. We need to play these games. These games are going to get played. Now, I have a solution for the NFL, which I'll get to with unfinished business coming up a little bit later on. But I think what they're trying to basically say is there's plenty of other teams in the NFL that don't get COVID, or if they do get it, they've gotten it and gotten rid of it. I mean, there's a number of teams that have had to deal with these issues before. Why can't you guys? Now, I don't know why it hits some teams and doesn't hit other teams. But they're basically saying, listen, if these other teams are doing what they're supposed to do, we're not going to penalize them for not playing these games and our fans as well. So deal with it. It's like an injury report. We're going to play these games whether you like it or not.
Pat, what's the basic difference though between the Ravens and the Broncos? I mean, they gave Baltimore 3 postponements, and they said, Denver, you go out there with whoever you can find.
The only thing I can wrap my head around without being cynical, it being the Ravens are contenders and the Broncos aren't, is, you look at the straight up numbers. Like the Broncos only had a couple of guys that wouldn't be able to play, only one positive test, where the Ravens, half of their roster by the time this was all over wasn't going to be potentially able to play if the game happened on time. Look, I mean, I do feel for the Broncos, but I'm going to be honest with you. Like, part of me was very excited for that Broncos game last week. I'm a guy that loves chaos on every sports level, and I wanted to see what it looked like when you had to just throw somebody in there. And also, it's the perfect solution to all of those guys who think if they would have caught a break or two in high school, like they could have been an NFL player. Like, that kid played college football as a quarterback. He's an NFL player, granted on the practice squad, and he went 1 for 9 with 2 interceptions. It showed you how hard it is to be a football player in the NFL.
First guy I thought of when all this happened in Denver was Nathan Peterman. I couldn't help myself. So look, but this guy was such a reach that it was somebody on the Broncos staff that actually was flipping through looking at bios that said, hey, this guy played quarterback. They were all set to go with somebody else, and they'd even asked the NFL to activate a couple of coaches to play the position. That's how absurd it got.
How did the NFL not let them dress a coach? Like, that would have been the highest rated NFL game this season. I would have stopped everything I was doing to tune in. The argument was it would have messed with rosters, but I don't understand how the Broncos, I mean, he's already in the facility. He didn't have to wait the 6 days to clear the COVID protocol. You could have released someone from your roster and signed this guy straight up as a free agent. I'm very, very disappointed it did not happen.
I'm actually kind of shocked that nobody went out to try to get Jameis Winston, who's sitting on an NFL roster but not playing. I mean, Tyson Hill, he's playing for the Saints, and you have Jameis Winston who's played games. Now, he isn't the greatest quarterback, but my goodness, he is better than what most of the Broncos had or anybody else has in the NFL who's on their second or third string quarterback.
Duffy, I didn't leave a lot of time for this, and I meant to. It was Kurt Herbstreit the other night made a comment that he apologized for immediately when he realized what it was he said. He said, the Michigan might just wave the white flag against Ohio State, a team they probably can't beat under any circumstances. And he said, which would doubly screw them because Ohio State wouldn't have enough games to play in the Big Ten championship. It's like, if you can't beat them, disqualify them. I thought that was brilliant.
I mean, look, I'd be lying if I hadn't thought the same thing like 2 weeks ago when Michigan lost to Penn State. But look, I think if it comes down to Ohio State not having enough games to qualify for the Big Ten knows how big a deal it is to get somebody in the top 4. The Big Ten will bend over backwards to get a game in there. They're going to make it work somehow. They're not going to be disqualified from the championship.
You need the ratings. You need Ohio State. I would have loved Michigan to beat them. They probably wouldn't have, but it doesn't really matter now.